Hello, good evening. I'm live, and I thought I was having a commentary there by some cyclists going past because I've got my craft room window wide open. I'm just going to talk to myself until I see if anyone hops on to view me, just to make sure I'm not having any technical difficulties. Oh, hi Mum, thanks for joining me. That just means that I'm definitely live. It's always a bit of a worry because you can see a little live red button in the top, but until someone actually jumps on and joins me and I can see someone's viewing, I'm never entirely certain. Well, good evening and welcome to Izzy's Crafty Bees. I'm Izzy Szynski. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator from here in the UK, in North Nottinghamshire, Retford to be precise. I'll just say a quick couple of hellos. Hello, so I've got Mum, Lorna, Sue, hi everyone. So yes, welcome to my live. I am slightly melting and I am so thankful that you are joining me live this evening, because I'd almost thought maybe you might all be lying outside in the garden trying to cool off, or maybe doing a few laps of your own personal pool, or perhaps just sitting in a hot sticky mess with your feet in a bucket of cold water, which is exactly what I'd love to do, but thought it would be a bit of a disaster if I tried to do that underneath my craft room desk. So I will just say, oh, Carol says she's already melted. Yeah, I think I'm on my way. I've tried to do, the professional thing of putting some mattifying stuff on my face, but I'm already melting. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I'm not going to waffle on too much longer. I'm going to do my usual welcome and give you my top 3 things of happiness for this week. So firstly, I had written down on my notepad my top 3 things. My top 3 bullet point things that have made me happy this week are the weather, because it's just beautiful and I love hot weather. My garden, because it's also beautiful and constantly throwing me surprises. And I went out with the girls on Thursday night. Yes, it was so rock and roll. We went to a late night cafe and played board games. It was great. We had such fun, didn't we, Lorna? It was wonderful. But I'm just going to put a big line through all of those 3 happy things, even though they made me happy, because the most happiest thing today happened. I am now the proud owner of a red Fiat Panda. Brum brum, I'm mobile again. And I've just christened her Ruby. So yes, please all join in with Ruby, 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 Ruby. Ah. Yes, I know, I'm bonkers. Hey ho. So that's what's made me happy this week. What's made you happy? Please add your comments below. And what's happening in Stampin' Up land then this week? Well, the Designer Series paper sale continues until Monday the 2nd of August. I will flick into the catalogue again just with a reminder of what's on offer. But I won't take up too much of your time. Just for my local customers, I'm putting an order in, a customer / joint order in this Friday. So if you want to join in with that, I will give you a reminder of the host code to use. If you're not local to me, still use that host code when I switch the camera around. And the other things that are happening and not happening, so happening / not happening, is the new mini catalogue. Doesn't go live until the 3rd of August, but I'm going to be giving you some sneak peeks this evening. So that's what this evening is all about, sneak peeks. I'm going to showcase a whole suite of products, and I'm going to demonstrate 3 cards completed with items from that suite of products. So let's get on with it. Let me swing the camera around. I've almost forgotten how to do this, so bear with me. Just press the swingy camera. There we go. And I'll just pop on some glasses and I'll swing my camera round. Oh, that's my cable just falling off. I'm just going to tie my cable up and try and keep my eye on the battery. Let's have a look at where we are. Am I level? Am I level? Have I got a good view of my desk? Okay, so we're pretty good, I think. So, what's that, Izzy? Well, that is a sneak peek of the new mini seasonal catalogue. So, note the date, July to December 2021. there was a major change made to the launch of this mini catalogue due to some COVID related product delays coming from China, I believe. And so it was decided at Home Office, I'm just going to try and just get rid of that cable, Home Office in America, Stampin' Up's head office, to delay the release of products by 1 month. So this catalogue actually goes live on the 3rd of August, which is the correct date on the Celebration Round 2. So Celebration, and you'll have to excuse the traffic going by, I have to have this window open, otherwise I'd totally just disintegrate into a hot mess. So Celebration traditionally has always happened for the first 3 months of the year, but this year we've had another change. We are having round 2 of Celebration, and that will be running from the 3rd of August until the end of September, the 30th of September. I'm not permitted to open either of these brochures and show you the inside until they actually go live. I am planning to do a catalogue launch, or at least a catalogue walkthrough, as soon as they both go live. But I can actually share with you actual products and actual projects. So get your head around that one. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, that's the rule, and I will stick to it because I love being a demonstrator and I don't want to get thrown off. So I'm just going to pop those to one side. I have to say, if you're a local customer, catalogues have gone out in the post to people who I can't just drive past. So they went out, and you should have received those by now if you've placed an order with me in the last 12 months. If you are local to me, I'm endeavouring to get your catalogues through your letterbox, but I've been a bit busy searching for a car and buying a new car. So, yes, it's all been a bit exciting. Oh, I do want to say, why am I opening this catalogue? This catalogue mainly features seasonal Christmas products. However, it also features Halloween stuff if you're into Halloween, and autumn related products, which I'm going to actually share this evening. I'm just not quite ready for Christmas yet, but almost. I'm no longer the Grinch, and I am quite excited to be making my Christmas cards. I actually had a post-it sticker in my diary for this week which reminded me that I need to make a total of 55 Christmas cards just for my own personal use this year. So that was just a gentle reminder in July to me, but I wanted to just highlight to you that in the annual catalogue, so if you've got a copy of your annual catalogue, we do actually have a really good selection of Christmas products still in the annual catalogue. So we've got a brand new suite in the annual catalogue called Tidings of Christmas, and it's a really excellent price point as well. And in that suite you actually get a bundle which is a stamp set and dies matching, the designer series paper, and some ribbon, which is this evening evergreen chevron printed or chevron weave ribbon. So it's a really lovely bundle, and what I love about this, and this is probably one I might even start with, I love the fact that we've got these images of stockings, stars and foliage, and we've got a really lovely collection of sentiments. The dies also cut these lovely big stars that layer up, and the stockings that layer up, and the foliage. So I think that that's a cracking suite to be starting with before the Christmas mini actually goes live. Carrie, another new stamp is this background stamp. I'm just going to try and move that up a little bit, make sure I'm in shot. This background stamp. Snowflake Wishes with matching dies actually carried over. This was in the Christmas catalogue last year, so this is one I have already on my shelf. So here is the stamp set, and I've not even used it. I've not demonstrated it, I've not used it, so I'm going to be pulling this one off my shelf and making with that. And we've also got the Evergreen Elegance with a new punch. This is a new bundle, new to this annual catalogue. We've got Poinsettia Petals. Again, I got this last year and I think I only demonstrated it once. Gorgeous stamp set, wonderful die set to match. So I will be demonstrating that as well. Snowman Season is a returning favourite, and Perfectly Plaid has been around actually for a couple of years. And I've also got this one, so I'll be probably using this, but maybe not demonstrating it. I might just pull out sentiments. So I just wanted a reminder very quickly of what's already available if you are gearing up to do Christmas and can't wait. So just another quick reminder, you can order from me if you're ordering online and you're not local to me. And if you would use this host code C6H9EVEZ until Friday of this week, and if your order is more than £25, I will send you a free gift. If your order is more than £25, then please, if your order is more than £99, please contact me and I will talk to you about getting £130 worth of product and only paying £99 by joining my team with absolutely no obligation to do anything other than use your products yourself in your craft room. So please contact me if your order is more than £99. Just move some of this cabling out of the way. So that's that bit out of the way. So what we're doing this evening is a thank you for asking. We're going to make these 3 gorgeous cards, and you can see that I've used the same stamp set, the same dies, and I've done a stepped up example. So starting with very simple, a little bit more stepped up in that it should be this way around, a little bit more stepped up in that we've got another couple of elements. So we've die cut the image, we've added a couple of different elements. Then this example is stepped up even further in that we've got a couple of different techniques going on. So we've got some, we're going to use a heat tool and we're going to do some colouring as well as die cutting. So let's have a look. But before we even make the cards, I want to share with you the actual suite of products. So the Harvest Meadow suite comprises of Nature's Harvest stamp set. Let me just angle that so it's not reflecting in the light. Plus matching dies. So we'll just quickly get the dies out and show you. So we've got some dies that actually match and cut out the stamped images, these 2, and then we've got some standalone dies that you can use to cut out the sentiments and cut out just different coordinating elements. So some really fab dies there in the set, and that's available as a bundle. So of course, let me remind you what a suite is. So a suite is a collection of products that you can buy as individuals. So you can just pick and mix. You can buy them each individually, stamp set on its own, dies on their own, or stamps and dies together as a bundle, saving 10%. Or you can buy the whole suite using one product code, which is handy if you love everything, want everything, and just want to enter one code when you're ordering. We have an embossing folder, which I've used on this card. I'm just going to hold it and try and reflect it. It's called Time Worn Type. So you can see little elements of typewriter type with some sort of grungy, distressed kind of embossed. Really lovely. I'm a real fan of this. I like my embossing folders. There is some gorgeous cotton embroidered, it looks like, not embroidered, what am I talking about, like crochet trim. It's actually called Diamond Weave Ribbon. For me it's like a crochet trim, and that's in a cream colour. It's like it is like very vanilla, I suppose. So we have that in the suite. We have some embellishments, some brushed metallic dots, so self-adhesive brushed metallic in a gold, a copper, and like an antique gold as well. Also in the suite is this fantastic cork speciality paper. Excuse rattling, I'm just going to pull a sample piece out. So you get 2 sheets and it's 12" by 12", and it's thin, really thin, pliable, with a paper backing. It die cuts beautifully. I actually, in fairness, I haven't tried to punch it, but it die cuts beautifully. You can stamp onto it, as I have done in this example. It stamps really nicely, and I've actually added some of the gold leafing embellishment there. So just something really different. It adds another texture to your projects. Let me just pop that to one side without rattling anymore. And some designer series paper is the last thing in the suite, and I'm just going to pull the whole lot out and then I can take you through it. Let me just take these two pieces out that I've started, and I'll just take you through each of the pieces. Let me tell you the colours first of all, which I love. We've got Bumblebee, Cajun Craze, Crumb Cake, Misty Moonlight and Soft Succulent as the colours included in this DSP, and I absolutely love the whole pack. So what I've done, as soon as I get my DSP, I learned this from Sue, who's watching. Thank you, Sue. A good tip given to me by a customer many years ago was, as soon as I get my pack of DSP, as we get 2 sheets of the same design, I pull one piece out and flip it over so I can work my way through the whole pack and show you everything. But I've just snipped into that one. So you get this one. It's got crumb cake, like twigs, and then a really lovely ditzy pattern. Now it says that it's Cajun Craze actually in the colours. I am convinced that this is not Cajun Craze, but I could be mistaken. I'm convinced that this is either Poppy Parade. I could be mistaken. Anyway, it's a really lovely bright colour. So that's on that side, and then this lovely blue, which is Misty Moonlight on the other. You can see there. And we get this gorgeous bumblebee with a ditzy pattern. I'm going to hold it still, so hopefully the camera will focus. Just kind of ditzy flowery patterns. And then the other side of this is this wheat sheaf pattern. So some nice neutrals as well as some nice bright colours. Another bumblebee all over with a very sort of subtle pattern. So these are great for your background projects. And the reverse side of that is, actually this one that I've cut into. This one is Soft Succulent, and it has like a marble effect background with a really teeny tiny, I'm hoping the camera can pick that up, teeny tiny script. That's, I think, my favourite. Then the next one is another bumblebee with a tiny pattern. Again, great for backgrounds. I just want to hold that down. You'll see this mottled effect is to kind of give it almost a watercolour effect background. And the reverse side of this is this Misty Moonlight flowered. I love this. It reminds me of blue and white pottery. Those kind of Delft pottery patterns. Then we've got another one that's a neutral, a crumb cake neutral with a kind of line and diamond pattern. Again with this mottled background, which gives added texture. And the reverse side of that is this one. This one reminds me of coral almost. It's those kind of broken branches in the background. Nice bright colour. And again on the background, if you can really, if I hold it still, you might just be able to pick out, there's some type. It's kind of really small type. I haven't sat and studied what it says, but I'm sure it talks about nature because the stamp set has sentiments to do with nature. So that's the suite. I can't tell you how much the suite is at the moment because I haven't got the catalogue open. Let me just do that off camera really quickly if I can just find that. And then we'll get on and do some crafting because I don't want to hold you up. So the entire suite, Harvest Meadow, is, let me make sure I've got everything. So that's £94 for the entire suite. The bundle comes in at, so the stamp set and dies comes in at £49.50. The embossing folder is £9.25. The ribbon is £9.25. The adhesive backed elements are £8.25. The cork paper is £7 and the designer series paper is £10.75. So hopefully you've got all of that. Now let me leave out what I'm going to use. That's great. Let's crack on and do some crafting. I'm going to also talk to you, and I'm just going to have to put my hair out of my eyes. I'm so hot, I'm actually melting. Let me just try and put my hair off the back of my neck. Right, so I'm going to make 3 cards. I'm also going to tell you about the celebration, and I will give you a sneak peek of some of the celebration items and the other items that I ordered from the mini catalogue towards the end, so stay with me and I'll give you some more sneak peeks right at the end of this session. So now I'm going to take a seat, and I will stand up occasionally just to check everything's still okay and I'm still live, etc., and to plug my cable in. So I'm going to start with the simple card first. Very simple. This will not take long, but I wanted to demonstrate because I think sometimes we do get carried away as crafters, particularly as really avid crafters. We do get a bit carried away chucking the whole lot. It's so easy to have the whole suite and throw the whole lot at a project. And sometimes life just calls for a really simple card, which is what we've got here. So we do actually have a hashtag as well, hashtag simple stamping. And it's to remind us that we can do simple cards. So I've just started with some basic white, half a sheet of A4, scored in half. So cut down to 15 centimetres and scored at 10.5. Your basic card blank. And I'm just going to burnish that scored crease so that my card doesn't bounce as much when I'm stamping. The other thing to do if you've got a bouncy card is to actually open it and lay it flat, because if you're stamping directly onto your card and not onto a layer, there really isn't an emergency side. So make sure that you're happy and that your card is nice and still. So you see, even with a simple stamping, we have to have a bit of a technique. And I'm just reaching to get the other ingredients. So I'm using 3 inks only. I'm using grey granite, I'm using Bumblebee, and I'm going to use early espresso. And I've just realised I haven't mounted any of my stamps, so that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to get the large image from my stamp set and block size E. It's that nice large block, and just mount my stamp. Give it a nice good press, make sure it's adhered to the block. And I'm going to get the thank you sentiment. I do use a lot of thank yous. That one says good luck, so that's not that one, that's that one. I do use quite a lot of thank you cards to my customers. Oh, I've got quite a dirty block there, bear with me. Just get rid of that blue ink, otherwise it might stray onto my fingers and then stray onto my nice clean white card base. So this card could not be simpler, but again we need to just take our time, make sure we're happy with our surface, and I'm just going to ink my stamp. Now this is a large stamp and a slightly smaller ink pad, so your traditional stamping inking technique would be tap 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 stamp onto the ink. You can see that a little bit of that stamp has actually just fallen off the edge, so I'm actually going to take my ink to the stamp and tap 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 just gently, because this ink pad is a bit juicy. I'm going to take my card blank and I'm going to do a really simple straight down, bit of even pressure, breathe in and breathe out, and then lift up my stamp. So no rocking and rolling, no wibbling and wobbling, just straight up. Gives a nice crisp even stamp. So that was grey granite. I'm now going to just take a sponge dauber, and these are available in the main catalogue, in the annual catalogue. So no fancy colouring techniques. So for those colouring in phobics who don't like fiddling and faffing, a really easy way of adding a spot of colour to these gorgeous daisies. I've got a verge full of oxeye daisies. It's just tap tap tap, little bit of ink. And I'm actually just going to slightly angle it. So when I'm stamping, I'm just going to slightly angle it because I don't want a big blob. I'm just going to slightly angle it and just tickle that centre of the daisy. Now I can't see the centre of the daisy here on this one, but I felt it looked a bit odd with just 2 yellow blobs, so I'm just going to invent a yellow centre of that one, and the eye just lets you believe that there's a yellow centre there. No other colours whatsoever. And I'm just going to do a very simple sentiment. And again, this might actually give you collywobbles, make you feel a bit fearful stamping your sentiment straight onto your card, but I do advise you just to give it a go. Yes, there might not be an emergency side, but you'll always have a scrap of white cardstock in your scrap drawer. So if you do make a mess, you can always stamp on a scrap and stick it over the top. So tap, tap, tap. I'm just glancing, it's quite a juicy pad, and I can't get right over because you get a shot of the top of my head, so I'm just hoping and praying that I'm going to be level. Straight down, a bit of even pressure, no rocking and rolling, and straight up. That's a lovely font. It's like a really lovely hand written font. A very, very simple thank you card. And I'm going to finish that off with a bit of linen thread. Again, this is from the annual catalogue. I'm just going to eyeball how much I might need to go right the way around and tie a very simple knot and a bow. And we'll just pop that round. Just straightforward knot, single knot and a bow. I did hear a spot of thunder earlier on. I'm kind of hoping that this oppressive heat might break with a thunderstorm and freshen things up a little bit. Now that's a bit loose and baggy, so what do we do when we've got something loose and baggy? We can undo it and maybe just tighten that up a bit, and if you do want to, you can hold that down with a glue dot. You could put a double knot in there, and let's see if that helps. So, have I got any comments about what's made you happy this week? What good things have been happening to you, my lovely crafty friends? Let's just give that. Oh, how come tying the bow is the hardest bit. Now I had 10 beautiful long nails, and then I did some gardening look and I broke 2. So I think sometimes when you have long nails, it's not always helpful. Right, so let me get my ribbon scissors and just trim that down a little bit. So here we go. Simple card number 1. Really quick, really simple. You could even stamp a stack of these, so if you had something you wanted to be thankful for, or you've had an event or a birthday and you wanted to send some thank you notes or whatever, you could even do this design using our note cards and envelopes, which I'll just reach for and show you the difference in size. So let me just find a note card in here, one that's open. She said. Okay, so I've got a new pack. So our note cards, basic white note cards and envelopes, they're 20 in a pack. I seem to have a pack of envelopes open. Let me just open that pack and show you just the difference of size, so you can see what that oxide daisy would be like. So they come pre-scored, so all you have to do is just not made a good job of that, have I? Let's have a look. That's better. And who stole my bone folder? Oh, it's hiding. Here we go. Burnish that crease. So all you have to do is open the card. It's pre-scored, so you could see the difference there, and that image of that daisy would fit beautifully onto a note card. So you've got a pack of 20 with envelopes. You could do a stamp stack really quickly. So I hope you enjoyed that, just that simple reminder about going back to basics, and actually making really simple cards is still a valuable thing to do. So that's our simple card for this evening, and let's move on to our stepped up version. So we've got a little bit more detail involved in this card. So what have I prepared? Have a quick look at any comments. Oh, Carol, you got your hair cut and coloured today. Oh, that would make you happy. Yes. You had to, oh no, goodness. So you had an appointment and then you had to wait even longer. Gosh, that's a nightmare. Okay, so for this card I've got, oh, I didn't decorate my envelope. I think I might decorate all the envelopes at the end with a simple daisy. So I'll just pop my envelopes to one side. I'll pop them up there. So for this card I've used soft succulent as my card base, and then I have cut a piece of basic white, and I think that needs trimming down because I've obviously cut that too wide. So let's grab the trimmer. I've cut that to 10 instead of 9.5, I think, at a guess. Yeah, so that should be 9.5 by 14, that first layer. And oops, let me just pop that. I also apologise if you can hear a slight banging. It's my craft room door because I've got the window open. So I've got a layer which I'm going to emboss with the embossing folder. I've got a piece of basic white which I'm going to stamp and die cut the flower image, and I'll have a scrap left for the sentiment. I also need a piece of that lovely DSP which I'm going to cut a tag. This was my favourite one. It coordinates gorgeous with the card base, and I'm going to use the Harvest dies that come with the suite, and I'm going to use tailor-made tags dies. If you've not seen these before, these are in the annual catalogue, and this is a great set. You get some with a fancy rounded end and some with a square end, and I'm going to use the square end tag, not the biggest one. I'm going to use the second largest one. Gosh, I'm all fingers and thumbs. I'm going to use the second largest with the plain top, and I'm also going to use this die that cuts me out this cute piece for round where the ribbon goes. I don't even know, it will have a technical name, don't even know what that is, but hey, that's what I'm going to use. So without further ado, let's start on this card. I'm going to first of all take this piece, and I'm going to use the embossing folder, which is one of our 3D embossing folders. So I have made a note on my folder to use platform or base number 1 and plate number 4 for my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. If you have a different cutting and embossing machine, you'll have to just study the different platforms. So I'm just going to run that through my large machine, which is over here. So I need, it's just off camera, bear with me. 2 packs of cardstock in the way, organised chaos. So I'm going to use platform 1, and then I'm going to use the embossing folder platform number 4, and just make my sandwich that way, and I'm going to run that through the big machine. And then time for the big reveal. And I think sometimes we do forget our gorgeous embossing folders. I absolutely love using an embossing folder, and we just sometimes forget to do that. And this one's lovely if you like your kind of vintagey look, your distressed look, or just something that's a bit subtle and a bit different. Little bits of type, script, and little bits of sort of, I don't know, grunge. Nice grunge though, not nasty grunge. So let me just pop my embossing folder out of the way now. So the second thing I'm going to do with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine is I'm just going to run this tag through with this part, and then that's a little bit of cutting, and then I'm going to come back and focus on some stamping. So I'm going to again use the big machine just for ease, because it's set up over here on my side of my desk. And just going to make the sandwich with the platforms, and I've just missed a piece out, so bear with me. I'll be right back with you. Here we go, I'm winding it through now. It's a bit like when you listen to the radio and somebody's describing how they're doing something, isn't it? Like, anybody listen to Radio 2? Terry Walton in the garden, in the allotment. So I'm just going to show you what this piece actually cuts. It cuts 3 individual little things. So 1, fiddle faff, 2, 3. I presume that they give you it in 3 so that you can actually just do a bit of a production line. I only need 1 of these, and I'm actually going to use the opposite side, so just flip that over, and I'm going to glue that to the top of my label. and it just makes it look more like a substantial label. And just pop my scraps to one side and my plates to one side. Oh, tractor number 5 going past. Whew. So I've got my label, my base, we're building this card up. Now I'm going to do some stamping, and the same principle as before in terms of the colouring. So I'm not changed out my inks. I'm sticking with the same ink palette, Grey Granite and Bumblebee, and Early Espresso for my sentiment. So again, I'll take the ink to the stamp. This time I'm going to do something a bit clever. Well, I hope I'm being a bit clever. I've brought in a piece of Whisper White Thick that's my stamping for my 3rd card, and I'm going to stamp my image for this card. And because I want stamp on, stamp off for my last card, I'm going to stamp again. And that's given me a nice pale image that I'm going to watercolour, and it will give me kind of almost that no line watercolour effect. I'll pop that to one side for my last card, and I will remind you that I've done that. So I'm going to go ahead and colour this, where am I? Let me just pop that card to one side. I'm going to go ahead and colour this exactly as I did the first one with my Dauber and my Bumblebee. I'll put my finger in it already. So tap, tap, tap with my Dauber and gently but build the colour up. And this time I didn't add the yellow to this one because I knew I was going to be die cutting it and I didn't know how much it would cut off. I'm quite happy with how it looks over there, so I'm going to stick with exactly the same as last time. I'll just close the lid because of the heat and blot my face off camera, delightful. And I'm going to take the outline die from the set that cuts this flower, and I'm going to just run that one through the machine. You can see how gorgeous it, how beautifully well it just coordinates, it cuts it really nicely. So I'm just going to run that through the machine. I'll be right back, don't go anywhere. There we go, going through the machine. So as you can see, that's die cut that piece, ready for building up onto the card. I'll be needing that again in a minute. And we've got this piece in the set, but I didn't actually use this in the end because the sentiment I'm going to use, I'll show you and just explain why I chose not to use that die. Firstly, I felt it was too long across the page, and the sentiment that I'm going to use is a reminder to never forget how much you mean to me and so many others. And you can see on this one, I'm not bothered about the others. You know, let them tell you, let them make their own card. I want to tell you to be reminded to never forget how much you mean to me, because it's all about me. It's not really, it's all about you, but you know where I'm coming from. So for this one, I'm going to mount this on a longer block, and I'm actually going to ink up the sentiment using a Early Espresso marker. So it's the Stampin' Up marker, which is just the same ink as it is in our ink pads. Oh, I just got the wrong one. Look, I've just got the wrong one out. Sending healing thoughts now. Let me get the right stamp out. Who spotted that error? So, a reminder to never forget how much you mean to me. And all I'm going to do is actually colour the part of the sentiment that I actually want using the flat of the brush. I'm not going to hold it and use the tip. I'm going to run that across just the sentiment, the part of the sentiment that I want. And again, so it's a reminder to never forget how versatile our Stampin' Up markers are. I'm going to give it a bit of a huff, like you do if you're cleaning your glasses, and stamp it onto the rest of the piece of white. So now we didn't need the and so many others who can actually make their own card, can't they? And I'll just remind you again of that die that comes in the set. So it would work. It wouldn't have worked with the full sentiment. It would work really well with this part of the sentiment. However, I just felt it was quite long when I cut it before. It was quite long on the page. So what I'll do is I'll run it through the machine just to show you. And then we'll just adapt it using a punch. Because sometimes if there's a die there, you might as well use it to get you almost there. Now I'm going to use a tiny bit of washi tape just to hold that steady because it's quite a thin die. And I'm sure you'll forgive me for not bringing the big machine to the table this evening. It's just so hot. Whew. So here we go. So that's cut it out really nicely. And I'm not sure if the camera will pick this up, but there's actually a slight embossed piece around the edge. But I just felt, I mean, let's have a vote actually, let's have a vote. Should I use the actual die or should I cut it down? While I just tidy these bits across to one side, I'll let you just have a vote. So, die cut or cut down? Die cut or cut it down? Oh, Carol said that she misses crafting in person and getting your prepared pack for your projects. I know. Well, let's do some class in the post. Or in your case, Carol, class through the letterbox because you're only down the road. Okay, and you can come and craft with me. We'll set that date to come and craft with me at home. So we're having a vote. Shall I just leave it as it is and stick it right the way across? I just felt it was a bit long. You agree? Yeah, cut it down. Right, okay, that's 2. So the punch I used was my the one that cuts 2 sorts of tags that I can never remember. So all I did to cut it down, can you guess? So I just snipped a bit off the end. And then I used the fancy end, and I always turn this one upside down, slide it in so that you can actually get it nicely lined up. Nip that end, slide the other end in. And nip that end. I've probably just taken too much off that end, but anyway, it's demonstrated the punch. And actually using the die was a good idea because it gave me that really nice straight edge to start with. If you hadn't have wanted, or you didn't have the punch, but you wanted to shorten it, you could still just do the flag end, you could snip it on an angle, you could maybe snip it and corner around it, you can adapt it. But that die in the set is really useful because it gave me that nice straight edge. So now I've got the right size sentiment for the card and I can pop some accessories on. So I think I'm pretty much ready to assemble this card. So let me get on and show you how I did that. And I can talk to you about glue as always. So the first thing I'm going to do, I've got all my elements to one side, and the first thing I'm going to do is glue down this embossed, so dry embossed through an embossing folder. It's got some type, so I want to make sure I get it the right way up. That sounds like a really simple daft thing to say, but believe me, if there's a right and a wrong way of sticking something on, and we've all made cards that open this way, haven't we? So it's worth that double check. And I am going to use wet glue for this, if I can find a wet glue that's going to work, because I think I'm in glue graveyard over here. Let's have a look. This one feels a bit heavier. And I'm going to use a wet glue because if I ran my tape runner across the embossed piece, so tape runner I mean Stampin' Seal or Stampin' Seal Plus, if I use pressure and run it across an embossed piece, I run the risk of flattening the lovely embossing. That's another little tip that's always worth remembering. I'm probably a bit back to basics this evening, but I don't care. Sometimes it's worth going back to basics. So now I've stuck that layer down nicely. The next piece of the layering is this pretty label. And these labels do a really nice stitched edge, if you can see that. It's a pierced edge rather than a stitched edge, I should say. And I'm just going to stick that little embellish piece. I'm going to have to find out what that's called. It's probably a really technical name for it. I'm going to actually try and use tweezers. I'm not a tweezer crafter, but somebody bought me these tweezers. Oh, look, what have I done? Put the glue on the wrong side. So that's why they give you, three. So you've got 2 spares. That's just so funny. So put the glue on the right side, turn it over, and then line up the straight edge with the straight edge. It's just probably, you know, when you get luggage tags, it's the bit that reinforces the whole, and there probably really isn't a technical name other than the whole reinforcement piece. I feel like it should have a special name. And I'm going to pop some ribbon and some linen thread through, so just to finish it off. This is the in colour open weave ribbon, and this one is in soft succulent, so we're all coordinating. And I'm just going to eyeball how much I need. Use my ribbon scissors again. And thread that through. So you could do a simple double thread through, pass it back through the loop. I quite like a bit of linen thread. If I could find out where I put it. You do need fiddly fingers though to do this. Sometimes it's really helpful to have a helping hand called a couple of heavy blocks just to hold something still. Ooh, I'm melting. A nice tight knot. You can always faff with your ribbon afterwards, and just a simple bow. And just pull that to the size. Thank you, blocks, for helping. That was really helpful. Do some trimming. So now we've got our tag, and I'm going to stick that flat as well. I might just trim that ribbon a bit more. Yeah, we'll just trim that ribbon a little bit more. Because I was thinking about the length of the flower, so I want the ribbon to be quite near the top. So again, I'm going to, you could use a tape glue for this, or a wet glue. So I'm going to stick this straight in the middle. This is quite an unusual design card for me. Straight in the middle. I usually like things to be off centre or over to, you know, over to one side. Yeah, those tweezers were quite handy. And now I'm going to stick down my die cut flower piece. Now I want to just have those flowers positioned so that they're not perfectly straight and symmetrical. I think it's much more pleasing to the eye if we have our flowers, this one straight, this one a bit further up there. And again, I'm sticking this flat, so I'm going to use some wet glue here. Ooh, there isn't even a breeze, is there, this evening? Or if there is, it's not this side of the house. So nice and flat. And I'm also going to stick my sentiment nice and flat. This is a good card for posting, nothing too three-dimensional. I'm just going to stick that straight across. So this time, let's have a bit of Stampin' Seal on the back of this. There we go. That's such a nice sentiment. Just to send to someone. I mean, you could stamp happy birthday inside. It could be a birthday card. It could just be a card to say, you mean a lot to me. I've got a friend who I'm missing at the moment, so I could send it to her. And I'm going to finish off with some of these brushed metallic adhesive backed dots, long title. So these come in bright gold, a nice copper, and like an antiqued gold colour. And on the original card I used the antiqued gold. I'm going to use the bright gold because I think it picks up the yellow. For this one I'm going to use my take your pick tool, and I'm going to pop a couple of the smaller ones on. So just scoop them up, pop one there, scoop them up, pop one over this side. Ooh, golly. Let's get you in the right place. There we are. So again, quite an easy card to do, but we've stepped that up. We've got some embossing, we've got some die cutting, a couple of bits of die cutting going on, so a little bit more stepped up. But equally, it didn't take that long because we didn't have too much colouring technique going on there. I wanted to just remind you that you don't always have to colour everything with an outline image. You can leave it quite plain and it still looks really pretty. So that's our second card. Let's pop that to one side, and then we'll just have a moment to stand. And no more comments, but I'm just going to plug you in, so just bear with me while I bring this cable round because I don't want my battery to run out. Ooh, sorry about that. Shouldn't feel a thing. There, painless. Let me just make sure you... Oh, I've knocked the camera. Bear with me. Still see me? That's great. Okay, right. Let's have a look at the third card. And what's my lighting looking like? I don't think I can bring in my... I can't bring in my other lamp at the moment because I'm going to have to use my heat gun. Okay. Oh, I could do. Bear with me. Sorry, I'm a bit addled. It's the heat. Let's pop some extra lighting on. Hopefully. Oh. Just talk amongst yourselves for a brief moment. So professional. I need a studio manager. Come on. Lighting technician. Thank you. That's a little bit better. That's great. Okay. So in my kit for this card, I actually on my original I used Old Olive, and for this one I've decided, because this piece here was lovely and bright, I decided that I would go with Granny Apple Green. Such a lovely bright colour. So again, just your plain straightforward card base, half a piece of A4 scored in half again. I'm going to pop my envelope to one side with the others, and we'll stamp and decorate those once we've finished. Just stand them there. Don't fall down. Okay, so I've got... I said don't fall down. How rude. So we've got a card base. I've got a layer of basic white, which measures 14 centimetres by 9.5. So I've just taken a centimetre off, which gives you a half a centimetre border all the way around. I have also got somewhere, probably still in the envelope, which is why it was jumping off. I've got a piece of that cork speciality paper to cut a label tag. And I've got this piece of not whisper white, basic white thick, which I stamped my image stamp off, stamp on. So it's a nice pale second generation ink stamped daisy. And there is a technique which is called no line watercolouring. This isn't quite no line watercolouring because, as you can see, I have got a line, but it's such a nice pale line that it will give me a very subtle... I'm going to lift up the original to the camera. Gives a really nice subtle finish to the watercolouring technique. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to need some water in a jar, which I'm not going to show you because it looks like a swamp. I'm going to use some extra ink colours. So I'm going to use So Saffron, so I'm going a bit more subtle. So Saffron, Blushing Bride and Old Olive for the stem. So I'm sticking with Old Olive because I felt that it actually coloured bright enough. And I'm going to use just one of my water painting pens. And I haven't filled the reservoir. I'm going to use a jar of water. It's just my favourite method of doing it. And I'm going to use a piece of tissue just so I can blot the actual brush. So I'll try and keep that one there, this one right in the centre, and I'm going to start with the yellow. So I squish my ink, so I give it a squeeze and squish some ink into the lid, and that will give me my paint reservoir. And I'm just going to wet my brush in the water, and I'm going to see if I've got that in shot. I'm getting quite a few shadows, so I'm going to just pick up some ink. I'm going to blot it a little bit first. I don't want it to be too watery. And I'm going to work fairly quickly, and I'm actually going to be cutting this one off. So I'm only going to be using these two flowers. I'm not even going to colour this one. I'm just going to work fairly quickly. Because I've stamped in grey granite and it's not stays on, so it will smudge the ink if I get it too wet. So now I'm going to pick up some more concentrated ink and just, I'm using a dotting motion just to put some shade around this side. And that's as far as I'm going with watercolour technique. So that's one colour finished. I will just blot the water out of the lid of my ink so that next time I squeeze it I'm not diluting the ink in the sponge. I'm going to do the same with the Blushing Bride. Now these are the old style ink pads, and you will find that the new style are a little stiffer to squeeze, but you can still squeeze them. If you've got arthritic hands, I suggest that you give it some pressure from the top onto your desk. You know, don't be too afraid. The cases are robust enough to take a squeeze. So again, I'm going to pick up some water, just swish my brush and clean any yellow off, and just give myself a puddle. Oh, I realise that I'm in the shade there. Give myself a puddle of ink to one side, which I can blot off and have a dry brush. And I'm going to work again quickly. I'm going to work from the top to the tip on each petal, and I'm not going to go over it too much because again I don't want to smudge the ink that I've stamped. So I'm working fairly quickly. I'm now going to really blot off and just pick up some more concentrated ink, and just again, let's have a bit of shadow or a bit more depth of colour at the top of those petals. And that's again as much technique as I'm going to do. I'm not overworking it. You can just, I didn't blot my brush then, so I've got quite a puddle of ink, so I'm just going to blot that on the page. You really don't want your brush to be too wet, and you don't want to overwork it at all, because you want to still see the lines. That's smashing, I'm happy with that. So I'm just going to blot that, and it starts to look more like a, dare I say, a proper watercolour without having to have done a sketch of anything, because I'm alright at painting, but I'm not an artist. I can't do sketching. So again, I'm going to make a puddle of ink, quite watery, so I get the lightness of colour, but I want to just blot off quite a bit of the water. And I'm going to work quickly from the top of the stem, just dragging it down, not overworking it. I've not gone back over that. I'm not going to colour this leaf apart from at the bottom. I'm going to dot the top of this, because that's what the pattern looks like, or the image looks like. I'm going to drag that colour down and add colour to the leaf. just dot a little bit of extra colour on, and that is it. I'm not overworking that at all. I'm actually looking back at my original and I'm thinking that the image was maybe a bit clearer, so I might just go back in and re-stamp it and just see if I can get a difference. So let's stamp off. I've got a notebook here. Let's stamp off onto my notebook and stamp on I think I'm a bit happier with the depth of colour there, although I really just didn't want it too dark. I will just recolour this one, so you can see it didn't take me that long to actually colour it. Let's bring back in those watercolours. I think I've just lost, on the stem here, I've just lost some of that definition altogether. So let's just go back in, and again, there's no shame in admitting when something's not, you know, if you're not quite happy with something. It's only a piece of paper and it's only a bit of ink, and it's a technique. So if you're doing this technique for the first time, do practice it. So I've blotted. I'm just thinking, have I got all the colour out of there? Make a nice puddle of yellow. And blot some of that off, and let's just work this colour. I'm just going to dot it so I don't lose any of the image, and I'll pick up some of the concentrated colour. That's a bit better. I'm happy with that. Let's go back to the pink. I'm just going to close that one up. Never be afraid to, you know, practice a technique. You've never done it before, or you've only done it a couple of times. But really the tip with this is not to overwork it. So I'm only giving that 1 or 2 strokes. I don't want to really blur tremendously the stamped image. Let's go quickly in to these petals and just dot. I can dot that and blot it. And I'm going to pick up some concentrated colour and just pop a little bit of shadow there. I'm much happier with that. I'm going to go in with the green. Let's water that down. But really blot that off, and let's go. That's much better. Really light touch. I can still see. Because remember, ordinarily if we were watercolouring, we would stamp in black stays on, which is grand, but it's quite harsh. And if we want to have a nice subtle, and this is a subtle kind of image, it's a soft flower, it's not harsh. A black outline would just be way too harsh for this image. So I'm happy, I'm glad I went back in and redid that and admitted to myself and my audience that I wasn't happy with the first one. I'm going to leave my green out because I'm going to die cut this piece behind. So what I'm going to do now is die cut this outline image, and I'm also going to die cut this piece that goes behind. So here we go, I'm going to use the outline image here for this one, and I'm going to take this lovely piece that's like stems of wheat, and I'm going to die cut this piece to be coloured. So what I'll do is I won't waste this piece of card. I'll actually I can fit that on. I can actually just fit that on. I would have flipped it and die cut it on the reverse, but I think I can actually fit that on. So that's marvellous. I'm just going to go to the die machine. Let's get that cut out, and I'll show you how I added colour then to that background piece, that sheaf of wheat or stem of wheat. and I'm just going to take a moment to position my outline stamp carefully, and I'm just using a piece of washi tape. Let's not lose everything onto the floor. Here we are, back again. So because I've chosen to use Whisper White thick cardstock, it actually takes watercolouring a bit better than your regular basic white cardstock, which doesn't like water adding to it, it just bobbles. Now this piece is lovely, and it actually does come out as one piece, it's just held together in the middle. I'm just going to separate that a little bit to get rid of this plate. So now you can see I've got my flower. I'll hold that up to the camera in a sec. I'm just going to free it from its hanger on. And if I'm careful, I can use this on another project, so I'll pop that in my bits and bobs box. I'm just going to tidy up this stem where I freed that from, so we've got no connection. I'll just tidy this little bit of petal up here. Look, there we go. And I'm just going to stand up. Here we are. And just show you that up close, so you can see how the watercolouring, it's really subtle, and you can still see the stamped image. Whereas on the one I abandoned, I wasn't too keen on. I felt like I'd lost too much definition here, and my original one, there you go. Not quite sure why I got a messenger message then, because I'm on Do Not Disturb, but hey, there you go. Technology. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I added this colour to this piece in the background. Woo. I'm going to take a fresh piece of kitchen towel, and I'm just going to lay the piece on, and I'm going to get my watercolour brush, quite wet, quite a lot of, you can see quite a lot of water with that ink there. Still leaving a bit of ink unwatered, and I'm literally just going to, very watery, blob that. There's no other technique. I can't even begin to describe whether it is a technique. But what I wanted, what I was hoping to achieve, and I did achieve with this, was a mottled effect. So rather than a straight, I could have just simply die cut this from a piece of green cardstock, old olive or whatever colour, but I wanted a really nice mottled effect just to give it that kind of interest. So all I've done there is just used my watercolour brush. Like I say, this is the basic white thick cardstock, and it will take that colour nicely. If you've got some white bits left, you can tickle it along with your brush. And that's nice, that's a nice mottled effect, that's what I was after. So I'll just dry that water from the lid of my ink pad, and we'll call that done for the green. Just clean my paintbrush, pop the lid back on, and we're done with painting. So that's all the colouring techniques we're going to do. I've got a couple of techniques just for the label, but they're quite simple, and all I need to do first of all is cut that label with the die. So I'm just going to grab the tag, and again I've used the second to largest, and it will just fit on that piece of cork speciality paper. So I'm just going to whiz across to the machine again, just get that die cut, and then we're done with the bits and pieces. And I will just show you, as I'm putting this on my plate, I'm putting it on at a slight angle before I run it through my machine. And that just helps with, firstly, the pressure on your rollers in your machine, and secondly, it helps your dies not to warp or bend. Just, it's a bit kinder on your, anything with a square edge, it's a bit kinder to your dies. So here we go. That was just big enough, that piece. I don't like to waste anything, so we've got this lovely piece of cork speciality paper. Let's put that die back in its packet. Get rid of that plate. And I've just got a couple of techniques for the actual label. So I'm going to use our Gilded Leafy Flakes, which have been out of stock for so long. I've been really upset about this because I absolutely love using these. I think they're fantastic. It just adds that really lovely bright gold, brighter than gold heat embossing, and just a nicer finish. And so I've been gutted that they've been out of stock, and they have just come back into stock. So bingo, I'm so happy. I wanted to show them. So I'm going to use this image from the stamp set. It's like a splodge. It's a really interesting, and I like it when Stampin' Up give us these interesting background pieces that we can use, because they are versatile, and this one will just fit on block C. I could probably go up a block size, but it'll just fit on. And I'm going to heat and stick powder. Gosh, I love this, that I'm in my craft room because I've forgotten to get that down. And I'm going to need my heat tool. Of all things, on an evening so hot, I'm going to have to plug my heat tool in. And I'm going to stamp this splodge. First of all, I'm not going to open that. I'm going to stamp the splodge a couple of times onto the back of this, but I'm just going to pop this piece of scrap underneath so I don't get sticky Versamark. So I'm going to use Versamark ink and ink that stamp, and I'm just going to randomly stamp a splodge there, and I'm going to ink it back up, and I'm going to stamp a splodge over here somewhere. I just felt adding a bit of gold to this cork would look really super, and I'm going to use my heat and stick powder, which is a lot like embossing powder, but it's actually a granulated glue. And now you can see the image. You can see the image. So it's a granulated glue, and when I heat it, it's going to turn into glue, sticky glue, and then I can actually use my gold embellishment. And the reason I'm leaving my lid on is because I'm now going to use the heat tool. I'm going to use my tweezers again, just to hold that. And I don't want to blow that away, so I'm just going to heat the heat and stick powder till it melts, and you don't need to heat it for very long. Don't overheat it. Just needs to turn. Just needs to turn clear, and then it's sticking. I'm going to use the lid of the box that I keep my gilding flakes in, because these do go everywhere. And I'm going to just put that big chunk back in, pull out some little bits, and tap them down into the now melted glue. So if you missed any of my demonstrations of using the gilding flakes right back when we first got them, the beginning of the year, then please do flick back through my archive of videos, because I did show you and demonstrate several different ways of using them. Now I'm just burnishing them off with my fingertip. That's all I need to do to get the flakes stuck onto the image. Just burnish that with my fingertip and give that a bit of a shake off the excess. Now in my box I've got a couple of stiff bristled brushes. They're actually just kiddies glue brushes with stiff bristles, and I'm going to use them in a circular motion just to knock off any of the excess. And once I've finished this, you'll see that that gold flake is now stuck in that splodgy shape of that splodge image. So it looks like it's been splashed with molten gold. That's our piece, and I'm going to very quickly put a lid on it, because this stuff flies everywhere. It's fabulous, but it does fly everywhere. And that's why I haven't got my fan on in my craft room this evening, because I just knew that if I left it on, I'd forget to turn it off, and then I'd be covered in gold flake. So it's brilliant. It comes in a big pot. You can see the size of the pot. You get a lot of it. It will go on forever. I don't imagine that I'll ever buy another pot of that, because it just will last me forever. Absolutely forever. A little goes a very long way. And I'm actually going to treat myself to a heat embossed sentiment this evening. So I'm going to use the same thank you sentiment, and I'm going to heat emboss it in black. So I'm just going to get my black embossing powder down, also from the highest shelf. So here's my black embossing powder, and I'm going to go back into my Versamark. Now I should really clean this off, because I've got early espresso ink on there, so let's just give that a very quick clean. Even though my Versamark ink pad is disgusting, it still stamps clear, so that's fine. So I'm going to stamp the sentiment just down here on the label in Versamark, and sprinkle my black embossing powder and get the lid off. So I can demonstrate to you that this cork speciality paper you can stamp on it. I mean, I'm heat embossing this in black just to make it really stand out, but you can stamp on it, and I will show you another project when I've finished. I'm not going to demonstrate it, but I'll show you another project. I'll just hold that, and we'll just set that. As if I wasn't warm enough. So now we've got a sentiment, and we've got this highlight of gold, and I think we're good to go to assemble the card. One thing I do want to also stamp, I've cheated a little and I've brought out Quiet Meadow, which is from the annual catalogue, and this I think coordinates really beautifully with the Nature's Harvest and the Harvest Meadow suite, and I'm just going to use this speckled background. I felt the splodge background was too dense, so I'm going to get the speckled background from this one, which is a bit like ink spots. I'm just going to pop that on a block D, I think. Is this a block D? Yeah, block D. And I'm going to take my background. Now, if you want to know where to position your splodges, what I usually do is just very sort of briefly assemble an eyeball whereabouts my splodges might want to be, so I know that they're going across there. And I'm going to take my grey granite ink once more, and I'm going to stamp off, stamp on, so I can use this piece of scrap that went wrong, and I can stamp off maybe a couple of times. Stamp off, and I'm going to stamp on, and I'll do that again down this side, just so that there's a few speckles showing down here like that. We just do those two bits of speckles. Now we can assemble our card. So let me just remind you and talk you through what we've done. We've got a card base, we've got a layer, and I've lost my glue. Oh, it's here. And we also had a piece of thick Whisper White onto which we stamped off and stamped on a flower image, so that we could do that kind of no line watercolour technique. So we've learned a technique there, a very nice, subtle and quite modern technique for stamping, and maybe you might consider it's an advanced technique. We also just die cut a piece from the set using thick white cardstock, and we gave it a nice mottled effect, and even though it's a small piece, I'm just going to dot some wet glue on there. I could use a sponge and a silicone mat and spread that on the back, but I think I'm just going to freehand dot, because I've got a really good Tombow at the moment that's behaving, and it's not acting like Vesuvius and spewing everywhere. I'm just going to glue that to the background. So we learned that we could colour a plain die cut piece. We don't have to die cut a piece from plain coloured card. That gives it much more interest. In my mind, that's a more interesting piece than a plain coloured green die cut piece. I'm going to stick this on. I could use, because this has a paper backing, I could use Tombow. Tombow would work really well. Get that on a flat surface and I might stand a better chance. Oh, before I actually put that on, I'm going to put some linen thread through. I did exactly the same on this one and then ended up having to put the linen thread through afterwards. So I take a piece and I'm actually going to double it up. So let's have a look. Double it and then double it again, just to get the thickness there. And on my original piece, I actually had a piece of gold. My original project, I had a piece of gold. I've forgotten what it's called. What's it called? This. Cord. But it just didn't look right. I think I quite like the natural look of the linen. I'm going to stick my tag straight across. I think I might leave that one over this time. So there we are. Stick that quite flat, and then I'm going to pop my flower over the top of everything else, and I'm going to pop that down with multi-purpose liquid glue as well. And how are we doing for time? We're not doing bad. Just coming up to the 1.5 hour mark. And of course we could use a dimensional and give that some pop, but that's a nice, again, a nice flat card for posting. So yeah, hopefully that's given you an idea of a different technique. So we've made a very simple card, and let's not forget that we are able and capable of making very simple cards. We made a nice simple card. We can do a stack of those really quickly. Then we've stepped it up a little bit and we've added some different elements. That wire's really getting on my nerves now, casting a shadow. Let me see if I can get that out of the way without moving the camera too much. That's better. Yes, Carol, I have gone up market with my tweezers. It did used to be a clothes peg. And then I've shown you another stepped up version with a technique. So we've done some no line watercolouring, and we've done some heat embossing and some heat and stick powder with the gold leafing. So simple, stepped up and stepped up again. So we could call this casual crafter, avid crafter, artfully avid crafter, and that's the terminology that Stampin' Up are using at the moment. Now, before I finish, we did say we were going to decorate some envelopes, and before I actually finish, please don't whiz off, because I've got some more sneak peeks of celebration items and stuff, new stuff from the new catalogue, so please don't disappear. So what I'm going to do with these envelopes is let's just decorate them simply. Who's stolen my flower stamp? And what we'll do is we will just take my, just need a piece of scrap. Let's bring in a bit of grid sheet because I don't want to stamp on everything. So let's just ink up the flower, and we'll just pop some of those daisies in the corner. It's really pretty. Or we could choose to maybe have the daisies on the flap of the envelope on the back. It still looks pretty. So that's nicely decorated envelopes, and we could again use the Dauber and add some colour. I bet there's enough ink on this Dauber to add some colour to each of those. And I won't add colour to this one. I'll keep this one for that card. But that envelope matches both of those cards. So now we've got nicely decorated envelopes. That's grand. And I just want to show you another project. I actually posted this on my social media platforms today. So this is a piece of mixed media, and I used exactly the same suite of products. So I've just used one suite of products throughout, with the exception of for the background I've used a mask, one of the new masks, and some of our embossing paste or texture paste for the background. I've heat embossed actually this image from Quiet Meadow here and here in white, and I've used the cork, and I wanted to just show you, if I hold this up to the camera, if you can see, I've actually, my hair's falling out, I have actually stamped straight onto the cork just with ink, so that's not heat embossed. I've added gold, I've used a piece here that's embossed with the embossing folder, and some die cut elements, but quite simple. And at the back, for the background, I actually used my blending brushes and blended some colour in areas, 3 different colours. I used Soft Succulent, Cajun Craze I think, and Bumblebee, and then I spritzed the background with alcohol and with water, and while it was really wet I used my heat gun to move around the puddles and dry it really rapidly, and it leaves this watercoloured sort of image on the background, so it makes it look like the alcohol distress inks. So I just wanted to show you what can be done in terms of mixed media just using Stampin' Up products. I think sometimes I watch videos because I love mixed media and I like to see what other crafters are doing, and I do watch videos, and the amount of product and different kinds of products that are used is absolutely mind-blowing. And as a Stampin' Up demonstrator, my budget only runs so far. So, you know, filling my craft room with other brands of distress inks and all sorts of products is just not on for me. It just doesn't float my boat, or my budget doesn't stretch to that. So I just wanted to show you that that's what you can do. You can do mixed media projects using just Stampin' Up. And if anybody wants me to do a demonstration of that piece, please add comments on the actual post on Facebook and Instagram of that project, not on this live, but if you go back and find the project and then do a post, do a comment where I've asked for comments, and that will really help me to just gauge whether there's enough interest, because I'm not sure whether everybody just wants to watch me demonstrate cards. So let me do some sneaky peeks. Here we go. So what else did I get from the Christmas or the seasonal catalogue? I got the Penguin Place stamp set with a matching punch. This is a lovely bundle. So there's a matching punch, punches out the penguin body, the bib, penguin bib, and the little feet. And let me just show you, because I've got a punched version here somewhere. Oh, wrong drawer. Oh, here's a stamped version. Oh goodness. So here's a punched version of little penguin. So his body, feet and bib are punched and then stamped using the 2 eyes and the little beak and the balloon. And then this is a stamped version, so I've stamped the body, stamped the beak and stamped the eyes, and then punched using the punch. So it's really cute. And what I loved about this set so much is that you can have happy birthday and season's greetings. You can have gifts for birthdays, gifts for Christmas, balloons for birthdays, on a string. I can already see this penguin with this as a fishing rod with a fish on the end. I've got to make a fish. And I absolutely love the other sentiments. Thank you, birthday, Christmas. I like you a lot'll. It's like a little except a lot. That's just so lovely. So I loved this set and the punch. That's a bundle that's available in the mini catalogue. Then in Celebration, if you spend £45, you get a pack of DSP that coordinates for free. Woohoo! And I will just really quickly flick through. So you get 2 sheets, and there's a main design, and then there's a really useful subtle design on the back. So these are like the main image designs, so adorable, both for kids projects and just adults who love cuteness. So they're the main images, and if I just flip the pack over and just show you, so as always, Stampin' Up very cleverly give us some very sort of plain, useful images. I mean, that could be used forever on cards. It doesn't have to be for Christmas. So can that. So can, what's this one? Stripes, stars. They're not necessarily snowflakes. Polka dots. So very, very useful, and that's for free if you spend £45. That's like a level 1 freebie. Something else I got from the main catalogue, or not the main catalogue, from the mini catalogue. So if you liked in the main, oh sorry, hang on, let me stop rattling. If you liked in the main catalogue, if you liked the shimmer vellum, in the mini catalogue there is shimmer gold vellum, which I got a pack of. Really useful for embellishing projects. I got another celebration. Got another 2 celebrations actually. What's this one? Oh, so I actually ordered a stamp set from the main catalogue, which I've had on my wish list for a while. So this is in the main annual catalogue, and the reason I got this stamp set is to make my dad a birthday card, because my dad has been a stargazer and astronomer for longer than I know. So I got that from the main catalogue, and then I got another celebration free item, which is this fantastic, it's not shimmer paper as you know it, it's not glimmer paper rather as you know it, it's called Bedazzling Speciality Paper. I'm just going to bring out a full sheet, and it's in champagne, and it's more like fish scales than glitter. It's really sparkly, it's quite thick and substantial. Now I wouldn't cut this on my trimmer because I'd be scared of dulling the blade, but what I would do is actually, maybe if I wanted a straight line, is draw a straight line on the back and cut it with my snips, or cut it with my guillotine, you know, with a guillotine arm, but not with a trimmer, with a trimmer blade. It does die cut beautifully, so I actually experimented and I die cut a label, and that would look fantastic on a card with a sentiment straight across it. So you can see quite a bit of that label glimmering in the background. Gorgeous. I also die cut some other pieces. So here's a holly leaf from the poinsettia, and here is an accent piece that's from the Forever Greenery. And then I did some numbers from the alphabet set. It's little numbers because I thought it'd be great on a special card. And then I just messed around with some punches. Now I admit that I used some retired punches because I didn't want to risk spoiling a current punch, but they punched actually really well, so I wouldn't hesitate myself to use a punch. Now there is a asterisk and a kind of a disclaimer in the celebration brochure that says that it could dull dies, the blade on dies, but for me, if you're only cutting 1 or 2 pieces, it's well worth the die cut in my mind, just to get that gorgeous sparkle. So I love that. So that's speciality paper, and that's free if you spend £45. That's one of the level 1s. What else did I get? So I think my last celebration item, I got this stamp set, Counting Sheep. Really cute. It's a birthday, or you're amazing. I've seen some fabulous projects. I've not mounted mine yet or stamped it yet, but I've seen some fantastic projects using this sheep and this sheep with the new die in the annual catalogue where you turn the wheel and it pops out through an opening, so the sheep actually rotate round, and that's free if you spend £45. And if you spend £45, you can get the matching dies, which is super. So you can get dies to cut the sheep, and you get this little gate and a balloon and a cloud and a sun and a flag and a little hat. You cut out the little hat. So a great fun set, and what I think is brill that Stampin' Up have actually put these separately. So you can actually, you don't have to spend the £90 to get both. You can spend £45 and get the stamp set to start with, and then go for the dies later. So you can split and spread your spending across the 2 months of the new celebration. So celebration is going to be on through August and September. So 2 months of spending. So I'm just going to talk about the spending, the freebies that you can get for spending and purchasing this evening. I will talk about the hosting benefits and the joining up benefits in another live video. But that's it for now from me. I don't think I've got anything else to share with you. So I'm going to risk flicking the camera back round and saying goodbye. But I'm just a bit hot and sticky. But I'm guessing that you guys are as well. So bear with me while I just swing this back round. Hold on, hold on. Where's the button? Oh, there it is. Here we go. And I'm back in the room, all hot and sticky. But hey, hang on. Let me just turn that big light off. That's good enough, isn't it? It's cosy. So thank you again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the cards and the demonstration and the messages about the new catalogue and the celebration. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact me, either in comments down below or a direct message. If you're watching this on catch up and it's after the promotion, sorry if you missed out, or well done if you got some. So please don't comment about the special offers if this is after the end of September 2021. I still hope you enjoyed the demonstration. If you're watching me on catch up on YouTube, please, if you've not done so already, give me a subscribe by clicking the subscribe button. It really helps the content to remain free to air. And if you want to catch me every time I upload to YouTube, then please hit the notification bell as well, and then you'll get a brief message just telling you that I've uploaded a new video. And that also helps. And of course, if you've enjoyed watching, give me a like. That's really great. Any comments, please pop them in the space below. And any questions. So I will just give a quick reminder of what the messages I've given you. So the designer series paper sale is still on, and that ends on Monday the 2nd of August. And the selected items, selected designer series papers in that sale, just check out my online store for details of which ones. Local customers, I'm putting an order in this Friday, so please let me know. I will ping a message out to remind everyone. And if you haven't already got your catalogue in the post and you want one in the post, then please drop me a message. If you've not been a customer of mine before, please drop me a message and I'll happily post you one to the UK. And thanks again for watching. Please stay safe, please enjoy the weather and have fun. Keep crafting. Bye everyone. Lots of love.